Dirt Tracks. I'm Shane Freeby. Billy Rock stepped aside momentarily. He will be back after this 15-lap feature for the Show Me Vintage Racers here for the first time this season. They make a couple of appearances every single year here at the Diamond of Dirt Tracks, and they get the early show to start out the season on the season opener for the MLRA. Take you through the starting grid. A feature for the Show Me Vintage Racers 15 times around, and Beth Martin is looking for her first win here in the Show Me Vintage Racing Series out of Buckner, Missouri. She will start on the pole, and Brandon Jordan won his heat race earlier on this evening, leading all 6 laps. He's out of Pineville, Missouri, starting P2. 80 sideways, Ed Neal from Winston, Missouri, starts inside row 2. And the Giant Bryant Moyer from Lone Jack, Missouri in the 9D will start in 4th. Last year's series champion Jim Thorne out of Tonganoxie, Kansas in the 113 starts inside row number 3. And Brian Cox picked up a win at I-35 last year from Concordia, Missouri in the 2B. He will start in 6th. John Martin and Dan Schmidt, he's your VP of the Show Me Vintage Racing Series, starts in row 4. Mike Lawless and Chad Eichelberry back in row 5. Pup Rodney Ashworth will start in 11th out of Clinton, Missouri in the 74, and Rob Brash on his outside from Richmond starting P12. Mickey Cook and William Holloman will start back in row 7. Then it's Kevin Prawl, Gary Proskachel out of Kearney, Nebraska, Angela Ashworth, and Damon Clevenger, your field of 18. Show Me Vintage Racers, first feature of the evening. And Beth Martin has the honors through 3 and 4 through the Pitts Realty start zone. She says it's time to go. Brandon Jordan on her outside. Again, Brandon won his heat race, led all 6 laps earlier on. And then Bryant Moyer, so used to seeing Chad Eichelberry in that 9D, in that Gran Torino, sitting back in 3rd. He is picking and choosing his line. Does he go to the inside? Does he go to the outside? He will just tuck back in line and stay in 3rd as Brandon Jordan leads the pack. And then Chad Eichelberry in the 1A is already up to 4th. That's the one thing about this series, where you get so used to seeing certain drivers in certain cars. These are not all individually owned by those drivers. There are a number of cars that are all owned by one person. And what about this spin around through 3 and 4? Chad Eichelberry, and this is usually Ashworth's ride in the 1A. He gets sideways in 3 and 4, loops it around. Another car spins to avoid, including the number 3 of Ed Neal, and that brings out the Midwest Sheet Metal caution. And how about major damage on the 8 of Schmitty, Dan Schmidt from Blue Springs, Missouri. That car is not going to go anywhere with that left toe end all the way pushed out. Lots of damage underneath the ride of that number 8, so a tough break for Schmitty as his night comes to an end on lap number 2. Green flag in the air. Mike Striegel, the Wheatland Outlaw, puts it back in the air. 2 laps down, 13 to go. Now Jim Thorne, who had a good run during his heat race, making it a 4-car battle side by side with the 9 of Bryant Moyer. Moyer to the right. Jim Thorne ducking to the inside, then they get straightened back out as Brandon Jordan extends his lead out to 7/10. Show Me Vintage Racing Series, 18 cars on hand. They will continue their season. Don't race every single weekend, but race most weekends. And now lap traffic as Brandon Jordan starts to put them down one by one. Clears 2 cars and is lead now a second and a half over Beth Martin. Beth Martin, Bryant Moyer, and Jim Thorne running second, third, and fourth, all nose to tail. Wildman, Brandon Jordan, we told you earlier, runs a late model, also runs a baby grand. Has a autism awareness sticker on his machine. That is in honor of his granddaughter, PJ. Brandon won 2 races last year. Won once here at Lucas Oil Speedway. Also won over at State Fair. Battle for third starts to wage on as Jim Thorne to the outside of Bryant Moyer, who runs in third right now. That's really the only side-by-side action anywhere in the top 10. And Jim Thorne able to sneak ahead. Uses the car as a pick. And now he is indeed going to clear Bryant Moyer and jump up to third. 10 down, 5 to go. Laps winding down, and now it's a cat and mouse game for Brandon Jordan. Clearly out in front of second place running Beth Martin. But now Beth, she's going to have a challenge from behind. Jim Thorne, 3 car lengths behind the 88, and the Midwest Sheet Metal caution comes out, and more fluid dumped down on the track. This is going to start about midway down the front stretch and go all the way up into the very middle of turn number 2 as a car is smoking. Hobby Time Motorsports safety crew will jump up and tend to that 71 Firebird of Brian Cox. May have a little bit of a flame underneath the hood, but the Hobby Time Motorsports safety crew is right there. Kind of hard to mistake a Firebird with that logo on the front or on the top. Mike Striegel's down on the flag stand. Mike, you've been able to drive just about anything, a modified, a B-mod. I know you're not quite old enough to be considered vintage, but have you ever thought about getting behind the wheel of a Show Me Vintage racer?
I have not thought about it yet. I haven't had that opportunity yet. I'm still young enough to wheel a normal race car, but someday, like the guy in the pace truck out there, our fearless leader, Danny, he's got one, so we stick him in the pace truck. That's a good job for him.
Well, I said just a few minutes ago, if there's anybody that knows about going slow out in front of an entire field to get them lined up, Danny Lorton is your guy.
Yeah, he does a stellar job. I mean, he does a stellar job, that's for sure. It's one of the very few races he's ever got to lead, so he's having a real proud moment right now.
Don't let that microphone get too far away, Mike. We'll check in with you a little bit later on. What a great addition to our broadcast team. Getting to talk to Mike Striegel up on the flag stand. Got to love that. You saw him on Facebook, Billy. You're like, well, we can just do the interview downstairs with all our... No, you don't want that. Trust me, not yet. Let him get a couple more races under his belt.
He told me last night he was glad I was here. He didn't want to have to do that tonight, so made me feel a little bit better. But I still want to see him out there. Definitely the personality in a flag stand that is rare to find. And, we're going to talk about something here. We come up with this late model feature about these receivers that are lights inside these late models tonight. We're not trying to replace Striegel with what I'm about to talk about, but I think his job is safe.
And let's be clear, he was probably saying he was glad that you were here because he doesn't have to listen to me all night. He gets to listen to you instead of me chiming in all the time.
Well, he's in the doghouse, though, because he missed breakfast this morning.
Oh. Well,
bad boy.
From what I understand, he missed dinner, too. They had a sandwich made for him, and I took it. Poor guy. Nose to tail, we've got 10 laps put in the books. 5 laps remain, and it has been all Brandon Jordan out ahead of Beth Martin. He had built up a 2.8-second lead And we'll see if Beth can hang with your top running 2D for the final 5 laps and give us something to talk about whenever the checkers comes out. Right now, it looks as though Brandon Jordan is going to try to lay waste to the rest of the field, as he is already back out by 3/4 of a second over Beth Martin. Well, after Jim Thorne had gotten around Bryant Moyer, he had his eyes set on Beth Martin, and now he does again. Pulls up right behind the pilot of the 88. Takes 2 grooves higher than what Beth does. Tries to find some traction up top. And again, this track still has not really rubbered in. It stayed nice and brown. You start to see a little bit of stripes. So it's holding up extremely well. Again, not a ton of wind. It has picked up a little bit from the beginning of the race. And now with 1 more lap to go, Brandon Jordan back to a 2.5 second lead over Beth Martin. This is his race to win. Brandon Jordan down the backstretch. The 2004 Super Truck champ at I-70 will pick up his 2nd win at Lucas Oil Speedway. He did it last year in September, and he starts the season in 2024 with the dub. Brandon Jordan by 2.5 plus seconds over Beth Martin. Jim Thorne, nice rally from him from 5th to 3rd. Giant Bryant Moyer in 4th. Rodney Ashworth rounding out your top 5. The rest of your top 10 finishers, Mickey Cook in 6th. Gary Proskachul in 7th. Mike Lawless, Rob Brash, and William Houlihan in 10th. Brandon Jordan made it look easy tonight. He ran 21 laps. He led 21 laps. The 6-lap heat, and then the 15-lap feature. And he had clear sailing out in front of the windshield of Brandon Jordan for all 21 of them.